Pound of Flesh by Shembre. Chapter 6. "Daddy's gonna show you the stars tonight," Kiara said with a grin. "I wish I were going too. We do it all the time. Do you know that all the great kings are up there? In the stars?" "Great kings in the stars?" Kovu tilted his head to the side and shrugged. "Like Scar?" The princess screwed up her mouth in thought and shrugged. I don't know," she mused and looked away. She opened her mouth to speak, but stopped. Her expression changed from excitement to embarrassment before Kovu looked away, feeling irritated. Scar was no great king to these lions, just to the outsiders. Kovu was waiting for Simba to wake up from his nap in the den, and Kiara was sitting with him just outside. Kovu couldn't believe that she was even talking to him again so soon after he'd made her cry. Kovu looked up at the darkening sky, then out to the Pride Lands. The setting sun hid the land, the green grass, the thick dashes of brown, white and black that represented the herds, the tiny dots of trees, and the snaking river glistened and shone under the glow of the evening sun. The Outlands didn't shine like that. All that ever seemed to be there were dust and death. "Do you miss your family?" Kovu frowned at the other cub. "Why do you care?" Kiara gave him a half smile. Well, you look kinda sad, like my dad does," she said, "when he misses Cooper." Kovu blinked. "Cooper? Who's that?" "He was my brother. He died when he was little, before I was born. I think he was a little older than you." His mother had never mentioned another cub named Cooper, let alone a dead prince. "My dad misses him a lot. I mean, he hasn't told me your mom," Kiara continued, "but he looks sad when someone mentions Cooper, or something reminds him of my brother. You kind of looked like him, just now." "Your brother?" "No, Daddy." "Oh." Kovu looked down at his paws. "So, do you miss your family?" he sighed. "Well, yeah, I guess I do miss them." Admitting to Kiara seemed like a simple enough request, but what surprised him was when Kiara put her paw over his foreleg. "I'm glad you came here. Now I've got someone to play with." Kovu raised a brow. "But I hurt you. Aren't you scared of me?" After a second, she shook her head. "Nope, you're okay. It's your mom I'm scared of." She then giggled and rolled over, gnashing her jaws. "She's got those big teeth and crazy eyes." Kovu wriggled in his skin a little. How could Kiara talk about her enemy that way? An enemy she feared, and then just giggle about it? Was she too young to understand? He wondered if she could laugh because his mother was miles away while he was stuck in the land of the enemy, depending on them for safety and food. He was not laughing, and he was still half afraid for his life. Not to mention how confused I am about what to do. I have everything I could ever want here, and in time the throne just might be mine. Kiara will need someone to rule with, won't she? A king for the queen of Pride Rock. Could I get what my family wants without killing Simba? But just where does that leave my family? They're suffering right now in the Outlands. Won't I owe my family something? Could I welcome them back? And what if Simba and Nala decide to have another cub? Another son this time? Then everything would be ruined. "Hey, did the grumpy lioness give you that?" Kovu blinked and looked to where Kiara was poking his shoulder with a retracted claw. He squirmed away when he saw that she was poking a healing scar that he had gotten a day before he'd come to the Pride Lands. His cheeks flushed hot. Yeah. You gotta tell my dad. Like, I know Mom says we gotta respect our elders, Kiara said, rolling her eyes. But she was a meanie. She dropped her voice to a whisper. Like a big, fat meanie. Like a rhino. Self-consciously, Kovu ran his tongue over the scabbed wound. I'm fine, Kovu grumbled, trying to block out his mother's last punishment. Kovu, as the chosen one, often got a larger share at the mealtime. He'd given Vitani some of his food. Both Vitani and Kovu had gotten her claws when their mother had found out. Kings don't share, and subjects don't beg. Greedy and lazy. Vitani, you should have gotten food for yourself. Disgusting. Kovu, she took advantage of you, understanding that kindness leaves you with no food. Kindness means starvation. It's nothing, Kovu told the other cub. It didn't really hurt. More giggles. Because you're so tough and all? Kiara rolled onto her side and lightly kicked his hip with her hind paws. Are you the toughest? Maybe. Kovu gave a half-hearted smirk. Do you just play all the time? Mm-hmm. She drew in her legs and giggled when he swatted at them. Wish I'd just been allowed to play, though I suppose I could now. Ready to go? Daddy! Simba stood next to Kovu, smiling down at him and his daughter. Daddy, I think Kovu's never star-watched, the princess beamed. Remember to tell him about the baby rabbit, the one with the fluffy tail. Simba smiled. All right, now I remember. He shifted his focus to Kovu. Ready, Kovu? Kovu nodded and stood up. Have fun, Kiara exclaimed. She turned around and went back into the den. Kovu did his best to smile, though there was a lump of nervousness in his gut. He followed Simba out into the savannah in silence, like they'd done on the mornings he had been welcome on patrol. The cool, grass-scented air hit his fur and he shivered. What's so special about the stars and some dead guys? What makes one king greater than the others? Kovu mused as he followed Simba. The land was darkening, bringing forth his fear of Simba's claws and teeth, which had only subsided slightly since he'd come to the Pride Lands. Kovu stuffed the fear down. If Simba's willing to stand between me and a cranky old lioness after I bit her, he's probably not gonna kill me. Probably. Eventually, Simba led him to a grassy hill. Here's a good spot. Simba sat down before lying down on his stomach, his forelegs stretched out before him. Kovu sat down nearby. He shivered involuntarily, and Simba looked over at him. Cold? Kovu quickly shook his head. I'm fine. Simba hesitated for a moment before he gave a slight nod and lifted his nose to the sky. Kovu, I want you to look up. Craning his neck back, Kovu looked at the sky. Kovu, I want to explain something that my father once told me. The stars, Kovu. What do you see? Stars? Kovu shrugged. Do you know about the great kings of the past, Kovu? He shrugged again. Kiara mentioned it. He made a noise of hesitation, not getting anything out at first. I asked her if Scar was up there. She didn't know. Mother would want a star up there, but she's never even mentioned it. You'd think she would have mentioned that if he can tell her things in her dreams. Simba gave a little sigh. Kovu, I want to talk to you about Scar. Scar? Kovu repeated. He glanced away. Simba nodded. Yes. He paused a moment. I am not completely sure what Zera has told you, but let me tell you what I know. Again Simba paused. Scar was responsible for the death of Mufasa my father, his brother. Scar staged a stampede and left me in its path. My father saw that I was in danger, and he died trying to save me. I thought it was my fault for years. I couldn't face my family, and that's why I ran away from home. After my father was gone, Simba went on, Scar led hyenas into the Pride Lands and let them overhunt. He had made a deal with them. When the food was gone, Pride was starving, but Scar refused to leave Pride Rock. Nala had to leave to find help, and she found me. I hadn't been to the Pride Lands since I was Kiara's age. When I came home to face Scar, I gave him the chance to leave, but he refused to go peacefully. He blamed the hyenas for being the real enemy. We did fight. I was able to overpower him, and in the end, the very hyenas he counted on to help him turned on him in their hunger. They killed Scar. Scar, Simba continued, couldn't let go of his hate either. In the end, that's what really destroyed him. What? Kovu narrowed his eyes at Simba. I don't understand. His head whirled as he tried to absorb all what Simba had said. And how can hate destroy someone? Lions destroy each other, right? Hyenas and lions can destroy each other. Mother wants to... Kovu checked himself when he'd said too much. His face grew hot. Although Simba didn't acknowledge his mistake, Kovu turned his head away. I mean, yes. Lions can destroy each other, Simba said slowly, but sometimes there are bad things inside us that harm who we are. Darkness. Scar couldn't let go of the jealousy he had for my father and me. He wanted to be king of Pride Rock so badly that he wanted my father and I out of the way. He wanted us dead instead of caring about us like a real member of the family. That's not what Mother told me about Scar, Kovu said boldly. My mother wouldn't lie to me. But she has. She has lied. About Simba, about Nala, about Sarabi. Nothing makes sense anymore. He knew his mother would have punished him for challenging her, but Simba only blinked and frowned. He lifted his chin slightly. I'm sorry, Kovu, but your mother has lied to you. I don't know why, but she has. What? Kovu narrowed his eyes. How could you know that? You exiled us. Mother's not a liar. She is, isn't she? She said that I killed Scar, right? That's what you told me this afternoon. When Kovu didn't respond, Simba said calmly, she has not only lied about what happened to Scar, but she believed that I had intentions to kill you and the other cubs who went into exile with you. I told her and the other lionesses you'd all be safe here, but she continued to tell the mothers that they were in danger. Kovu, do you think one of you has to be wrong? Kovu glared at the king. He thought he understood his place in life well enough. That there was only one truth, and everything else was a lie. There was your family, and then there was the enemy. He'd only needed to justify murder because he was a coward. Now Simba was telling him that the biggest reason that they left the Pride Lands was nothing but a baseless fear that his family was in the wrong. Why should I believe my family's enemy? Why wouldn't you lie to trick me? Simba's face fell a little. Kovu, I wish I were lying. I trusted my uncle. I really liked him. He hid his hatred for me, or maybe I just didn't want to see it. Simba crossed his paws. I didn't want to believe he'd killed my father and had tried to kill me. I was just a cub, and he'd tried to blame me for a king's death. Simba trailed off and looked down his nose. Simba looked up again. Kovu, I'm sorry your family ended up where it did. Your mother didn't trust me and she had a grudge against me, but I wasn't in my right mind when I told her you and the other lions in your pride to leave. Simba looked up at the sky again. His face grew long and he blinked. My son died just before your exile. Cooper was sick often. We couldn't do anything for him. That's just how it was. And after all I'd been through. Mesmerized, Kovu watched. The bridge of Simba's nose wrinkled and his jaw trembled a bit. Simba then bowed his head so his mane hid his face. Kiara was right. Kovu had never seen anyone look so vulnerable, much less a king. A chill ran down his spine. Is that why he's been taking care of me? Do I remind him of his dead son? Kovu lowered his ears and looked away, now incredibly uncomfortable. No lion had ever opened up to him like this. Nuka harbored pain, but the possibility of learning the truth of what really bothered his older brother was hopeless. His mother had gone on and on about how much she missed Scar and hated Simba, but the anger and fury were only met by more increasingly bitter hatred. Kovu, what do I have to gain by lying to you? Simba asked, half of his composure regained. I only want you to understand. I know you haven't been here for very long, and I understand, and you have every right not to trust me. Simba breathed out through his nose. I just hope that one day you do trust me, and although you'll be treated well here, I cannot replace your mother. Just like I can't truly replace your son.
We must fulfill Scar's wish and train you to become the next king to take back your throne from Simba. Don't feel anything for these dirty little termites. They're nothing. What matters is that you avenge Scar.
The scabbed over scratch on Kovu's side tingled. Zira shouldn't have treated you like that. You do belong to my pride now. The space between Kovu's eyes creased in worry. Was Simba getting to him? Would he become his family's enemy rather than their hero? Or was this all that he'd been searching for? That there was more to life than just killing? His mother didn't want him to feel for the enemy, but how could he distance himself while also winning the trust of the only lions to have ever shown him true kindness, unconditionally? He didn't have to kill for them. His mother had been outnumbered by the Pridelanders, and yet they had let her leave unharmed. He really had found no reason to hate the Pridelanders, and Simba had just cast doubt over the biggest reason his mother had given him to hate them. Should I really be trying to understand my enemy? I want to understand, but what if I understand my enemy so well that I can't help but feel like I'm picking one side and betraying the other? And what if my family isn't the side I want to pick? Simba? Kovu spoke after a long silence. Yes, Kovu. Is there any good in my mother? What about her? He paused, searching for words. He couldn't admit out loud to Simba that his mother wanted him dead, even if the king knew it. He finished. Doesn't like you at all. She hates you because Scar's dead. He paused again. He needed to hear Simba's vision of the enemy to compare to the image his mother had for him. Simba had been too much of a stumbletongue that afternoon when Kovu had asked him if he hated him and his mother. Do you think she's all bad? inside. Simba looked away. Maybe. Kovu frowned, unsatisfied by the quick, awkward answer. There had to be more. His mother was obsessed with hating Simba. Her hatred for Simba was almost the very reason why she was still breathing. And all Simba had to say was, maybe? I think she's had a hard life, Simba added unhelpfully. Does avenging Scar's murder really matter that much? Or is it that she wants Simba to pay for taking Scar away from her? Or does she just want the Pride Lands for herself? Both Kovu and Simba turned their attention back to the stars. The stars twinkled against a deep blue-black cloudless backdrop. Kovu then asked quietly, "What about me? Is there a darkness in me, too?" "I think that there's a lot of good in you. Everyone has some of both." Kovu looked at Simba. "Really?" There was a small smile on Simba's face when he nodded and replied, And if you grow the good, it will be strong enough to keep the darkness away." Kovu looked at the stars again, wondering if his mother was pacing the night away under these same stars, brooding over what Simba had taken away from her. Do I grow the good then? Do I listen to Simba? Mother would rather see me grow the bad instead of the good. "But you won't be alone," Simba remarked. "You'll always have the stars and me to guide you as long as you live here." Something flitted across Simba's face, something that Kovu couldn't fully grasp, before it was gone again. "You might have your past, but you also have a future." Kovu blinked. Deep down, Kovu knew Simba's words went against everything his mother had said, yet somehow he felt as if what Simba was saying was that he had been waiting to hear all his life. There was a chance that he hadn't been born just to kill. How can my enemy want me to be good when Mother wants me to do good by the family and murder Simba? "It's getting kinda cold," Simba said, putting Kovu's conflicted thoughts on pause. "Come on, why don't we head back?" He stood up and chuckled. "If Kiara asks, tell her you saw the rabbit. I'll show you another time, okay?" Kovu nodded and followed after Simba as they headed back to Pride Rock. Kovu's head and heart ached. Who was he to trust? Could he trust anyone besides himself? Do I trust my own mother or Simba? End of chapter 6.